in early 2020, Laura Matula and I sat down at a piano together and wrote the first song for this show. And it fell out of our faces like magic, and we just knew there was something really special about it. 2 or 3 weeks later, the pandemic caused the first lockdown that I can remember here in Nashville, and it sort of took away the blueprints that we had created over the last 12 years at The Bug for how we make theater. The magic of it was made for live theater, and there was definitely a moment where I thought, I don't know that we'll ever see this show on stage.
We started writing Shadow in February of 2020. The first song that we wrote was Sunrise, and after that we took a pretty big break because of the pandemic and a long period of figuring out what we really wanted the show to be about.
As we sort of emerged from the cocoon of pandemic times, we started to revisit. And what was wild is that the entire concept of the show had shifted. Once we kind of landed on what it was going to be, it happened so easily.
Where Corey has landed with this final script is so inspirational, I think, for so many of us, because we can come to the theater, we can watch the story about a girl who doesn't see herself. She doesn't know who she is. And it really makes you look at the world around you and think, how much do I let what other people think of me influence how I perceive myself? How much of how I perceive myself influences how others see me?
Shadow is a story about girlhood, about growing up as an artist, but also just being a person in the world. I see this happening with my teens, and I remember it happening for myself at that age where somebody can make an assumption about you and you start to believe it. This show also adds in the aspect of being an artist. One of my absolute favorite quotes I have ever heard about being a creator came from my beautiful co-writer, Laura Matula. Every time we start to analyze a project, whether it's our own or someone else's, or have conversations about other people's art, she always says that it's really hard to make things and it's really easy to tear them down.
I started writing musical theater pieces because Corey asked me if I wanted to. She has been such an advocate of pushing me in like a loving and supportive way to try things that maybe I was afraid of. And one of those things was writing musicals.
I would send her some pre-coffee, embarrassing a cappella recording of a song, and then the day would pass and I would be asleep, and at 2 a.m. where Laura does her best work, I would end up with a text message back that was the chords under the song and ideas for where the bridge could go, and then we would kind of get together the next day and sit down together and watch it all come into place. We live in this amazing community here in Nashville of professional actors, and Laura and I both had another life where we were one of those professional actors. And because of those connections, we are able to bring people into the process when we're developing the play to hear it out loud. All of the characters are always written with child actors in mind, but as we need to learn more about what's working, what's not working, where the story is going to go, it's super helpful to hear things out loud. And I love that moment so much where we sit down and we open the script for the first time and we get to hear these incredible professionals say our words out loud. It really is kind of a dream come true.
I got the amazing opportunity to be in the 10-Minute Play Festival and originate the role as Teeny. After the 10-Minute Play Festival, I got to go to the reading where I got to work with a bunch of professionals around Nashville, including my dad, and work on this brand new musical. And after that reading, I knew I want to audition for this show. I got to audition, got the call back, and I got cast as a brand new character. I play Curious in Shadow, and she is all about the gossip. She wants to know everything about everyone, and if she has to ask the questions, she will ask the questions.
If you're going to do a show about identity, it is such a beautiful opportunity to know that you can actually create roles for the kids who walk in the door.
When you have all of these pieces in place, ahead of time before you even write the work, it changes the way you think about writing. For Shadow, we cast the show before we finished writing the show. With that in mind, we had the characters, the students, we knew their faces, we knew their voices, so we could write songs for them specifically. We can go through, we can make sure they're in the right keys for everybody that we've cast. It's a really unique process because we can really tailor that musical to the people that are performing it.
I was in the very first Laura and Corey show as well, so I have gotten to see them grow as writers and creators.
Laura and I wrote a zillion songs for this show, but weirdly, I think my favorite song is still the first one that we wrote. Every time I hear it, it feels like the world of this play, and I remember the moment that we sat down at my horribly out-of-tune piano, and I listened to that song for 2 years thinking, is this song ever gonna live? Is it ever gonna see the light of day? And now that it is, it just makes me so happy.
Wake up and the world is gold. Feet down and the ground is cold. I'll wrap my arms around this new daylight. I'm the daylight, bringing to life my world with a sunrise.
One of my favorite songs in the musical is Main Character Energy. This is sort of like an 11 o'clock number with the giant ensemble of incredibly talented students. What's so interesting about this piece is that it was the last song that we wrote. We wrote it after we had already cast the musical, and Corey knew that we needed this moment in the show to sort of find the energy in Act 2. It is truly my favorite moment in the show, where we get to see every kid really come out and shine. And we didn't get to hear it until we were in the very first rehearsal with the kids, because we had never put it into one of our readings.
Now you're giving that main character energy, and you're following my story tonight. It's the chapter where they've gotta choose them or me, and the audience is here on my side.
I think the biggest change from the read-through to opening night would have to be King-Sized Pond, because in the reading, it just said King-Sized Pond. We didn't get to listen to it yet because it wasn't written. And now that the song is in the musical, I get to dance to it and sing to it and have a blast with that song. And it's just such an amazing number.
From start to finish, it has just been a delight. And I get to be there from the minute that music is thought of. And then it turns into kids on stage with a full band, lights, costumes. Getting to be a part of that process is so exciting.
I really want this to be sort of a letter of encouragement to all of my students to say, you are good at this. You are allowed to be proud of yourself. You are allowed to love yourself and the art that you create. It's beautiful. It's not anything that needs to be made smaller for somebody else's comfort. Through the process of writing it, I had to sort of relearn that lesson for myself as an adult.
People walk away from a Theater Bug show always being surprised at how impactful it was for them, how excited they were by the performers, these young performers so full of life, so full of stories to tell. It is the most beautiful thing to be a part of, and I just count myself lucky that I don't just get to watch the shows, I get to write the shows.
Hearing something brand new is kind of an irreplaceable experience for me. There is nothing I love more than being in the audience of a new play, except maybe being the writer of one.
I think people should come see Shadow because not only does the audience help Shadow find herself, I think audience members will also see new things about themselves that they probably never thought of before, and I think that is the magic of the Theater Bug and the magic of the show, and I just can't wait for audiences to see this story.
Does it rather be a big fish in a king size?